We want to move next to, we have with us Will Freeman, who is with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. There's other funding out there available at times on different things, and this is just one other, the Agricultural Enterprise Fund that Will works with the Department of Agriculture. We want to invite Will in today to share a few minutes and a little information about this particular fund as well. So, Will, if you'll come on in, and I think if you need to share your screen, you should be able to. So, Will, thank you for being part of our program today also.
Yes, sir. No, I appreciate you all letting me jump in and steal a few minutes to just give you an update on something a little separate from what y'all are talking about throughout this morning. As Troy mentioned, with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. So instead of looking at things from the federal side, just looking at Tennessee specific and some opportunities out there. If nothing else, just to put on y'all's radar, make sure you're aware of, answer any questions, and then I'll let y'all get back to it. I am going to share my screen as Troy had mentioned. See if I can do that successfully here. Should be able to see our Tennessee Department of Agriculture's webpage instead of my face being too big on your screen. Nobody's looking to see that. And for those of you who are calling in and may not be able to see screens, you should still be able to understand what we're looking at here as I'm reading through it, but feel free to flag me down with any questions. So to do a quick intro on this, the Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program was mentioned earlier. The way that we sometimes look at things and divide it up in the easiest to understand way is the Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program, TAEP, has been around since 2005 and is focused on production agriculture, on farming, really anything that comes to what you would traditionally consider the production side. And that's focused mostly on equipment. Now, going beyond the production side, think more processing, value added, anything that creates new markets might be eligible for a different program called the Ag Enterprise Fund. And to get more information on that, if you go to tn.gov/agriculture or just Google Tennessee Department of Ag, anything along the lines, it'll take you to this main page. And hovering over the top left, the first little tab, we'll quickly see Ag Enterprise Fund. And as I'm mentioning this to you, and kind of the same as the little intro that I gave you there, the most important sentence or sentences right out the gate is what I'm highlighting here. If I could just put this in my voicemail, this might help me out and reduce some of my responsibilities at work. But this is the key focus part here. Program focuses on value added and processing projects that benefit other producers or forest landowners. If you can think of your project as fitting that sentence, you might be competitive with this program. Some examples of this that are kind of easy to maybe think around would be sawmills, bringing in timber from other forest landowners, meat processors, creating new opportunities, new market opportunities for livestock producers. Community kitchens offer value-added opportunities for folks throughout the area. The way that those businesses, those projects impact other folks in their community is what makes them a potential fit for this program. The program's a 25% cost share opportunity. Here lately, we've maxed it out at $50,000 from our end. So any equipment costs over $200,000, you'd probably get maxed out at $50,000 from us anyway if you're a successful recipient of this program, but you can apply multiple times over the years. Our intent is to offer this multiple times a year, but this program has run out of funding pretty quick here lately. We've recently had to spend all of the remaining funds that we have available for this fiscal year. And so we won't offer this again between now and July, but expect to have another opportunity probably around the summertime for this program. As you can scroll through the main page on this, it'll do a breakdown of some things that are of interest to the program. To be honest with you, I wouldn't worry too much about that because you can basically fit any project you could ever think of into one of these. If nothing else, increased capacity is broad enough. I wouldn't worry about this. I'll dive in deeper a little bit here in just a second. The requirements are pretty standard. Tennessee business and entity got to track the success of the project over time, has to be 25% or less. We do now ask that folks use the equipment for at least 5 years as intended or laid out in the proposal. Give a brief breakdown of how you can decide if your project is competitive or not, especially as this program gets more and more applications with limited funding. If you're in a distressed or at-risk county, you're going to score higher. If you're located in Davidson, or Shelby or Knox County, you're going to score a little low there, but maybe you can have impact to other folks out in the areas that would be deemed distressed or at risk. Effect on your local economy, we usually score this by jobs. Are you creating 10 new jobs with this project, which is competitive, or maybe a new part-time position? Not going to get us many points. Impact on the industry, this is usually going towards new market options for other folks. Again, meat processors, you're going to score high here because you're going to impact the industry pretty well. Sawmills, you're going to score high here. If you're a winery or a brewery, you may not be making the same kind of impact on the local community or the industry particular as much, so you may score low. And then the readiness to complete, if you got us convinced in your application that this is well researched and going to be done, you're going to score well there. I'm getting close to the end of my time here, which is perfect because the only other thing that I wanted to do was quickly showcase the application. While this program won't do another round of funding for several months, probably at least 6, we do have the application just readily available at all times. If you hit submit on this, it'll come to me and I'll just get in touch with you. But it's located here on the left side of the screen, submit an application. We try to keep this to basically just the things that we need: applicant information and your business information. Tell us what your project is and how your business is going to be impacted by it. We do ask you to check a box. Let's just say this will allow folks to have access to new markets. You would check the box and it'll ask you to explain a little bit. Tell us more about the impact and the jobs created. Give us a breakdown on the budget. What items are you buying? How does that look like? And then the timeline as well. And then really those are the key things. We do ask for proof of financing, which can be just a letter from the bank saying that you're in good standing, and then a business plan to be associated with that. And then that'll have you good to go. But just to do a very quick recap here while we're ready to turn this back over. Basically, if you do see yourself doing a project that many of these would fit with potentially VAPG and our department, that was kind of addressed just a few minutes ago on doubling up on that. But if you have a business model or a new project where equipment will be needed to be bought and you will be creating an impact on your community and your industry, definitely would want to connect with you, talk further about it. But just know that there may be some opportunities at the state level as well. One last thing, and then I'll leave y'all to it, is there may be some additional new opportunities announced from our department in the coming months, potentially even in the coming weeks. So just want to invite everybody to follow along on our Tennessee Department of Agriculture social media accounts. We'll definitely be making updates with information on those. If you do not utilize or use social media or would rather not, I'm going to put my information in the chat here and would be happy to keep you updated, just to add you to a list of folks that I will be emailing whenever we announce either a new round of Ag Enterprise Fund or any new potential programs going on as well. That wraps it up for me. I do think that there may be some things in the chat. Troy, am I missing some questions in the chat?
Will, got one, I think, that wanted to ask you about, I guess, on qualifications. One was, how about if we have a honey house we rent to local beekeepers?
That's a good question, and it would be a little new for us. Can't say that in the 5 or so years the program has been around that we have done that. However, if I would say, you would definitely be eligible for that project. I would assume, this is me making a lot of assumptions about the project, and I could be very wrong. I would assume that a direct job count for that might be, I'll just make some guesses here on 2 or less. And that is not as competitive of a number, so you wouldn't score great there. But if you're located in a distressed county, offering this opportunity to other folks in a distressed county, and you can kind of quantify a little bit on maybe some economic impact of this opportunity, here's how much money folks that are utilizing this environment are able to make, and I'm hiring 2 more people, and this is all in a distressed county, that may be competitive. So would love to talk to you more about that and dive into it a little bit. I'm guilty of always answering maybe to folks. I know folks don't like maybe, but this will be another maybe answer of it might just work, it might not.
Just need a little more information sometimes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, Will, thank you for your time this morning. I appreciate you jumping on with us and doing this for us. It is a good opportunity for producers out there, and it's good to keep in mind. And it's been beneficial in a lot of areas, I think. So thank you for your time and for giving us that good information.
Yes, sir. Thank you all. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, Will.
I will.
I'll also try and maybe, as Dr. Hughes is talking, if I can find, if you don't know if you're in a at-risk or distressed counties, maybe I can find a link to put in there that'll show you some of the counties that are considered that across the state. Before I go to Dr. Hughes, I'm trying to keep track of some of the questions. I'm not ready to get to all of those, but I want to hit a couple of things. If you haven't seen, Chuck Morris put some things in the chat. I just want to make mention of a couple of those. He said, if you receive the grant award, you will receive a 1099 from the federal government. Just want to make sure you know that. Can grant writer costs be included in the proposal? Chuck says, no, it cannot be. And Chuck also mentioned you can get priority points for being a socially disadvantaged farmer if you own the majority of the business. And so that's a couple of things that Chuck's put in the chat if you have not caught those. I'm holding on to some of the other questions and we'll try to get to those as well. All right. Maybe did Will put that in there? I think Will may have put something in the chat that may give you the distress and at-risk counties. I think that's what that's going to be. So if you're not sure, if you're in one of those counties, you can click on that link and it should give you that information there as well. All right, I'll try to hold that one too. I need a copy of that. Dr. David Hughes from the University of Tennessee. Dr. Hughes, I appreciate all the work he does. He works a lot with us here in the center. I worked with him recently on a few projects and he's very valuable. If you don't mind to stop sharing your screen, and I'm going to move over to, we got a couple other guests with us today. We want to give them just a few minutes to tell about their programs and some of the things that they have going on. They were going to be sponsors of our in-person meetings and going to be there with us in those meetings. And so I want to introduce to you Jim Biggs with the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center and also Jade Clark with Ag Launch. And we'll give them a few minutes on the program today to tell us about some upcoming things they have and about their programs as well. Jim, I'm going to start with you first. So Jim Biggs, if you don't mind to join us and give us share a little information with us today.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thank you, Troy. I appreciate giving me some time, and I'll try and do this real quickly because I know we want to have lots of time for questions from the group for Dr. Hughes and the rest. That was an amazing presentation, so thank you for doing that. Hey, everybody, my name is Jim Biggs. I am the executive director for an organization called Knoxville Entrepreneur Center. Not surprisingly, we are located in Knoxville, which is in East Tennessee. If you're not familiar with Tennessee, I'm also actually a horse farmer over here in Rockford. So if I look like hell, it's because I was out breaking ice out of water buckets for several hours this morning. I'm thawed out at this point now, so things are good. KEC is an organization that is set up to help people start and grow businesses. And we are really agnostic to what kind of business you're doing. But we are here to serve as a resource for anybody who is looking to get started in business or to help their business become more successful. And one of the industries that we are privileged to be able to support in large part through a partnership with our friends from Memphis, Ag Launch, which Jade will talk about in a second, is the farming community. And so we do programs and we have mentorship opportunities available both for farmers, but also for people who are selling products or services into the agriculture industry. And through a partnership with USDA and Ag Launch, and also with Center for Profitable Agriculture, the Farmer Veteran Coalition, and TDA, we are really excited to be able to offer this coming spring a program that is focused specifically on people who are looking to get started with value-added agriculture. And so I think, a timely thing considering the conversation today, not necessarily that you have to be applying for a value-added grant, but it certainly is a program that we think will help you become more prepared to submit an application for that. So you should have gotten a flyer in the email that Troy sent you. I will share my screen very briefly just because I can pull it up and let you see it as well. But the idea is that it is a 5-session workshop, about an hour and a half per session, where you will be exposed to a variety of different topics that we use in order to help people get started with their businesses. So the first is building a business model and doing some customer discovery around what exactly is the market look like, and how will you go, find out if, in fact, this is a product or service that people want. And then you're looking at things like doing financial planning and funding opportunities, a lot of which we've actually talked about today. Figuring out the branding and marketing strategy for that, looking at regulations that are relevant to your industry or the type of product that you're trying to create. And then we work with a group out of Chattanooga on specifically consumer products and developing a go-to-market strategy. So you'll have access to those experts and to resources that they make available to the people that they mentor and coach. And then on alternating Thursdays, we're also hoping to bring in guest speakers who are actually doing value-added products, who can share their experience and give you some tips about what's worked and what hasn't for them. So feel free to check out the website that we have set up. You can either scan the QR code that's on the flyer, or you can go to the URL. And I will also drop my email into the chat if you have any questions about it. I will be happy to either get on a call with you or just trade emails with you and let you know what's going on. Two quick caveats. One, we are only able to accept people in certain East Tennessee counties at this point. So basically, we are using the same footprint that Chance described earlier. So East Tennessee and the surrounding counties for Knoxville is where we are able to apply this grant that we got from the USDA. The second is that while we are hoping to start next week, we may actually have to push this a little bit. And so you are still welcome to come and submit an application. We would welcome that, but just know we may get back to you and be looking at alternate dates for a variety of reasons beyond our control. So with that, happy to answer questions when we come around to the Q&A session, but I appreciate your time today, Troy, and thanks for including us.
And Jim, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here, and appreciate you be willing to help us in our in-person meetings and especially today as well, since we did not get to do in person. There's a couple of things in the chat, if you don't mind quickly. Someone that says we're located in Fentress County, have applied for the seminars. Our question was whether or not we would be admitted since we're out of this network.
I think what we would have to do is look at, I guess, two things. One, can we do we have space in the class? And if in fact we can accommodate somebody, then I'd have to talk to Chance and the team at USDA and say, can we bring these people in, or would we have to look at doing a separate program for that, Troy? I do think I also saw in the chat Cock and Greene County, and yes, those are included.
Gotcha. Thank you, Jim. There was one about when's the Chattanooga meeting?
We are not meeting in Chattanooga. We work with a group called Proof that is based in Chattanooga that focuses specifically on consumer packaged goods, and so they'll be doing our go-to-market strategy session when we do it.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for your time. You're put your contact information in the chat as well for folks there, and thank you for doing that also. If you can hang with us a little bit, you're certainly welcome to. I also want to introduce Jade Clark with Ag Launch. Again, they were going to be a partner with us in our in-person meetings and willing to help us today as well. So Jade, I'm going to turn it to you to tell us a little bit about your programs and Ag Launch itself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jade Clark. I am the Director of Talent Development for Ag Launch. I do have a couple slides just because Ag Launch is, we do a lot. Wear many hats. And so I just want to make sure I can quickly and succinctly get through our offerings. So just bear with me. If you're not familiar with Ag Launch, we are a nonprofit. We work throughout the Delta region and several other regions in the country, but we're based in Memphis, Tennessee. Our mission is to catalyze the transformation of regional agriculture economy centered around farmers, innovation, and prosperity for all. We do this by aligning public and private investment. We're attracting and growing ag tech startups, facilitating the development of new agriculture value chains, and while building collaborative farmer networks. And again, that's across the country. Here are where we're currently located with our regional innovation clusters through a partnership with SBA and EDA. So for Tennessee, that falls into two of our regional innovation clusters, the Mississippi Delta for West Tennessee, and then East Tennessee falls within our Appalachia Regional Innovation Cluster. So as I mentioned, we have ag tech startup companies that are providing innovative technologies for farmers. These technologies are geared towards regenerative practices, logistics, robotics, things like that. And the farmers that are part of our network have equity in the companies in exchange for their thought leadership and actually hosting field trials of the technologies on their farms. Here's an example of how we have helped two of our farmers build local value chains and value-added supply chains in the industry. So one of them is Growing Acres. They do grain sorghum for food and beverages. And then we also have Stony Creek Colors, who are growing and producing blue dye for the denim industry through the production of indigo, the indigo plants. This is just an example of how we have supported some of the value-added producer work with one of our farms to expand their brewery and their barley crop. Expanding their barley crop to meet the brewery industry in Tennessee and supply them. They're leading the development of the crop, which includes some breeding. They're also developing pilot scale materials and making connections with breweries and other beverage companies across the state and in our region. The type of value-added producer support that we provide, we assist with the VAPG grant application development. We'll also do some review before submitting for certain types of projects. Our Ag Launch Farmer Network, they are all about knowledge sharing and supporting our peers. Some of our farmers that are in the network have been awarded VAPG grants, and so they are very instrumental and key to helping us help other farmers to get that same support. We have some cohort-based programming, so we usually participate in this workshop series. We also lead our own. We are in partnership with KEC, as Jim mentioned, and then we have some boot camps that we do with local universities. And we also have a mentor network that's providing that direct kind of one-on-one technical assistance and entrepreneurial support. Some of the tools that we're using in terms of funding are the SBIR grants. We, like I said, the value-added producer grants. We also are assisting with the some RBIPs, and we have an angel network within our farmer network in LLC. And then our rural development partners, Ag Ventures Alliance, they also have a fund. And then we are also using some providing technical assistance through partnerships with Center for Profitable Ag, the SBA, SBDCs, and then some of our university partners as well. So I know that was a lot, but here is my contact information. If you have any questions, like I said, we do kind of support or help just at least think through and kind of the ideation process with the value-added producer grant and also just value-added businesses. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, and I can also include my boss, Pete Nelson, who I'm sure if you haven't heard the Ag Launch pitch from me before, then I'm sure you've heard it from Pete. So I'll drop his contact information in the chat box as well.
Thank you, Jade. Appreciate you doing that and giving the contact information as well. Ag Launch has a lot going on. We appreciate your time today to pause and give us a few thoughts about Ag Launch and things that you all have going on. Are there any specific questions for Jade while she's with us? Or anything about Ag Launch? If not at the moment, then maybe we'll have some in just a minute. We're going to kind of move into the question and answers session. Again, thanks for all of our speakers for being here today and joining us, and certainly welcome to stay as we go through some of these questions. Chuck, I'm going to go back to a few maybe from this morning that were in the chat. Before I do that, Jade, there's one. What are the service costs from Ag Launch? We've got a question in the text chat about that. What are the service costs from Ag Launch?
We are a nonprofit, so we don't charge a fee to participate in our programming. So if you are interested in some of the cohort-based program, just email us, because that's obviously on the we have those offerings throughout the year. And for the direct or one-on-one kind of mentor and technical assistance, those are kind of our one-offs. So if that is the type of support that you're needing, just feel free to email us or contact me. But there is no, we don't charge a fee for our services. It's funded by grants and great partners and partnerships.
Thank you, Jade. There's also another one. Do you service Dixon County, which is over closer to me, just outside of Nashville a little bit, just west of Nashville?
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right. Is there a follow-up to anything from the Connie about the Dixon County question? I'll monitor the chat and see. Thank you, Jade, for taking those for us. Thank you. We'll go to some of the questions from this morning that I tried to copy on the chat and try to hit. The first two or three, Chuck, went back to your first presentation this morning. In looking at some value-added things and considering livestock, there's an example given, would livestock be considered value added? An example is selling mated queen bees. Would that fall under the definition of value added?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think that would be.
Okay, thank you, sir. There's also a question about, is program income only related to the items you're applying for?
Program income is related to any funds you make throughout the grant process as a result of the grant funds.
Okay. And then can the value producer grant be used in conjunction with TAEP, Tennessee Ag Enhancement Funds?
I actually don't see any reason that it couldn't, as long as those funds aren't derived from federal funds. As long as the funds for that program aren't derived from federal funds, I think you actually could.
Okay. I think they're all state funds. I think you're right. I think you answered this one on the chat, just so everybody sees it. To qualify as a veteran farm, does it have to be in the veteran's name, or can the spouse apply as a veteran farm? And I think, Chuck, you answered the veteran needs to be the producer.
That is correct.
Okay. There's a question about starting the funding or starting the spending for the project. When can you start spending? Is it after the grant is awarded or after the application is submitted?
After the grant is awarded for value added.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir. And Will Freeman put in the link for the counties that we mentioned earlier. Just want to, everybody may have seen this. I think Sean Martin put this in. He's a rural development state office technician who assists Mr. Morris in the application process. And I think of what he has in here is talking about the SAMS number that Dr. Hughes talked about. I think re-emphasizing start really early in the process, because sometimes the SAMS number can still get delayed. The registration for the SAMS is free, but sometimes it does get delayed. So as others have said before, start on that process just as early as you can. I think Anthony put in a list of some, you found a resource for grant writers. You can look at that. I haven't looked at that. I don't know anything about those, but he put that in the chat box a little earlier. And reemphasize as well, I think USDA says a beginning farmer is 10 years or less in that experience. Dr. Hughes had a question about one of your slides, but I think it probably relates back to the lady in there. You said 12 years experience in showing cattle. I'm gonna take that as when she's probably in school or college. But the example did say they started farming in 2012 and applied in 2015. So I think that would be within that time frame of 10 years, the 3 years for beginning farming.
It's a good point, though.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. All right, I'm going to be quiet and just entertain if you've got a question, if you want to put it in the chat, or if you want to speak up, unmute and ask. We've got some time for that. This is the time to ask if you've got some questions. It's a quiet bunch right now. Any other things?
Yeah, on the application, section 5.3. Wait, oh, 5.2, do you only pick one of those sections?
To the performance evaluation criteria.
The product methodology.
Oh, the
It's-
methodology.
Yeah,
Yes.
it says to pick the best. Does that mean you only pick one?
Yes.
No, you technically can pick more than one, David. We prefer you don't, but you can technically pick more than one. But if you do, you've got to support how you meet both of them.
Yeah.
And I think there was a question in the text earlier about that, part of that, about you need to change the physical state. I think that's answered, and yes, that it has to be. Anthony asked, I lost it right when I was going to read it. Anthony, I think, had, when would they get the recording? Just as soon as I can get it put together and get to you, and I'll try that as quickly as I can. Whether I may have to link it to something, so I don't know if I can send all this over email at the same time. It's going to be a big file on this recording, but I'll get that information to you just as soon as I can. They'll have recording, and have the presentations, and have the tool blocks in there as well. Chuck has sent me that, and I'll get that out to everyone also. And then there's another question, maybe, as a vet farmer and beginning farmer, it looks like it gets you more points to apply as beginning. Would that be correct?
5 priority points each, as far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Score the same.
Yeah, one or the other. You don't need both.
Yeah, no, you won't get credit for both. You're not going to get extra points.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So just pick one. Yeah.
Okay. There's a comment about sending the grant writer resources again. Okay, I think Andy put that on there, what he had. I don't know whether to say this. I think we've got some of that, maybe Dr. Hughes, we've used in the past. Might still
Yeah.
have that list. I can send it, but being employed where I am, I'm not making a recommendation. It's just a list.
Yeah.
That's all I can say on that, and keeping clear with that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. We can't endorse anybody, but we can just provide information.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir. Any other things? All right. If not, it's been a long morning. I think it's been a good morning, hopefully for everyone. Do appreciate those that have hung in here with us. I'll get this information down and sent to everyone. Special thanks to Chuck Morris, USDA, for his work in doing this. Also to Dr.
Indeed.
Hughes and all the things that he puts into these meetings as well. Phil Baggett, Dr. Jim Osborne being with us, Will Freeman, Jim Biggs, and Jade Clark for all the putting that all together. It's a lot of information, 3.5 hours, but thank you for that. And feel free to reach out to any of these folks with the contact numbers, or if you've got any other questions about this, please, all of you have my email. You can ask me questions. I'll try, if I don't have the answer, I'll try to get that to you. Somebody asked about the TAEP credit. I will be sending a list of those folks. And if you have not put your name in thank you for asking that, because it reminds me, I meant to do that again. If you haven't put your name in the chat, first and last name, please do that. I'm saving the chat and we're getting this, and that's how we use that with your registration to send in the TAEP for your credit on that. We appreciate the comments that are coming in there as well. I'll also have a link to get some feedback from you about the session and what you think and what we can do along those lines either. So, Chuck, Dr. Hughes, anyone else with anything else before we close out this?
I just want to say thank you to Troy and Dr. Hughes for all the work you put in on this. And we always appreciate the opportunity to partner with you guys and put valuable information out here about some really good programs that can help folks. And if any of our staff at USDA can be of assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We hopefully look forward to seeing some applications from some of y'all.
Sure. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate your folks being on with us as well. Again, they've got a couple extension agents on with us, so we appreciate that. And I'll give one last shout. Hal Pepper, I think you're still on. Any closing things or thoughts, Hal, you might have?
Oh, thanks, Troy. I appreciate it. No, I would just say maybe one thing about being viable and showing that you're viable. I know that was one of the beginning slides that Chuck showed, that the VPG grant is for viable operations. So you want to be sure and show that your enterprise is viable and that you've been doing it. But yeah, thank you for doing this, Troy. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Hal. Thanks for the legwork you've done in the past and bringing all this together. If not anything else, just again want to say thank you to everyone for being a part of the program today, for your interest. And if you have some particular questions, get in contact with me or some of us, and we'll see what we can do in answering those as well. So again, we'll let it be at that. And again, thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks, everybody.
Doug, thanks again for your time. Appreciate your work. Appreciate you being on here helping us with this.